Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to this webinar. And the webinar is a session valuing partnership and transformative process for resilience from the subsurface. The session is targeted towards partners and stakeholders with engagement and interest in those sustainable developmental issues that link in one way or the other to the groundwater and aquifer. So, and in this regards, I want to welcome you participants to this meeting today, to this session, and I want to also welcome our presenters and speakers for the session. So thank you for your time and thank you for the effort we put in to get to this level. So once again, I welcome all of you, and as a way of introduction, I will want to give brief time to each of our presenters to quickly present, introduce themselves as a form of housekeeping. For those of us who are participants, you have the chattable platform where you can put in your questions, and some of those questions will definitely answer them online, and some we might be able to put it to the participants, to the speakers during the Q&A session. In addition, I want to also mention the fact that for those of us who are presenting, kindly, we want us to keep to the time, as we said, and then we move on. So with this introductory background, please, I want us to start introducing ourselves. So I will make a roll call. Briefly give us your name, your affiliation, and a brief on what you are talking about. Karen Vilford, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Marshoot, and good day, everybody. My name is Karen, and thank you for tuning into the issue of groundwater for sustainable development and resilience, and as a resilient future, as groundwater is the most abundant resource in the world. I'm looking forward to the snapshots of the great work that we'll be seeing today as part of the presentation. And importantly, I will be presenting a video which is titled Providing Solutions to a Resilient Groundwater Dependent Future, in which global experts will make a call to ramp up action on investments in groundwater for a sustainable and resilient future. So looking forward to the session. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. So next we want to Thomas. Can you please briefly give us introduce yourself and a brief 1 sentence, 2 sentences on what you want to talk about. Thank you.
Yeah, hello to everybody. My name is Dr. Thomas Himmelsbach. I'm professor at Karlsruhe University, KIT. Aside this, I'm also head of the department Groundwater and Soil Sciences at VGR. VGR is one of the largest investigator dealing with groundwater, mainly in Africa, and on behalf of the BMSS, the Federal Institute for Development and Cooperation. We have a lot of staff working there, and myself, I have a background of about, let's say, roughly 17 years of investigations, mainly in Africa. My presentation today has a sad reason. I want to give from my heart a short commemoration of Ralph Klingbeil, who suddenly passed away in February this year. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Next on the agenda is Kirsty Upton from British Geological Survey. Briefly, thank you.
Thanks, Marshoot. Hi, everyone. My name is Kirsty Upton. I'm a hydrogeologist with the British Geological Survey, who are a partner of GRIP. I'm going to be presenting a short video today from the UpGrow research programme that highlights just some of the key partnerships that helped make that programme a success, and look forward to seeing everybody else's contributions too. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Barbara?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Barbara Billards. I'm a water researcher at the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis, IASA, in Vienna. I'm replacing today my colleague Tahir Kahil. And The video that we will be presenting is part of a project that we have recently finalized, looking into the role of water, both surface and groundwater for sustainable development of the Zambezi Basin. And importantly, looking at the strategic role that groundwater can play in achieving those targets. Looking forward to this session and the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Andrew?
Yes, hello.
Thank you.
I'm pleased to introduce myself, Andrew Stone, American Groundwater Trust. We work with a non-profit educational organization. Our focus is on groundwater. Our mantra is science as the basis for policy. And from a pedagogical point of view, we believe strongly that education is a process and not an end result. And as a result, it's a never-ending challenge for all of us to preach the gospel about the importance of sustainability and groundwater protection. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the session today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Robert Kalin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bob Kalin. I'm a professor at Strathclyde University. And today we'll be providing voices from Malawi, presenting some of the information that has been collected over the last number of years on nearly 125,000 rural water supplies across the country, and how that data is being used in understanding policy change in the country.
Yeah, thank you. Now, the next group of people that we are going to introduce are our panelists at the end of the Q&A. And the first on the line is Daniel Olago. Daniel,
hello,
please
everybody.
Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Daniel Olago, professor at the University of Nairobi in the new now and bigger Department of Earth and Climate Sciences. Thank you.
Thank you. Dipankar Saha, please.
Yeah, hello everybody. I am Dipankar Saha from India. I was member in Central Groundwater Board, the department under Government of India, mandated for groundwater monitoring, exploration and management in India. You know, India is the largest groundwater extractor now in the world. And I will be participating in the question and answer session, and if time permits, express some view. Thank you.
Thank you. Astrid Hiller.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Astrid Hillers. I'm from the Global Environment Facility. I'm in the Secretariat here in Washington, DC, and we are supporting international waters programs all across the globe. I work mostly in Africa and Asia, and I've worked on the groundwater agenda and global partnerships for a while. Looking forward to being in this session and on the panel.
Thank you. Thank you. Jane.
Good afternoon. Good morning. I'm Jane Dottridge. I'm the Secretary General of the International Association of Hydrogeologists. We're a worldwide organization for groundwater professionals with several thousand members and have been part of the GRIP partnership since the beginning.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we thank all the presenters for your time and your effort in being part of this program. So with this, we want to kick the ball rolling with the start of the first presentation, which is about Groundwater Solution Initiative for Policy and Practice, 5 years of building momentum. And the video is going to roll now by Karen Vilholt. Once again, I want to remind our viewers and the participants that you can put your questions in the chat box on the Party. We'll try as much as possible to answer them. Thank you.
Groundwater is the foundation of livelihoods of millions of people around the world. And it's very important to explain to the primary stakeholders that the more we keep extracting this resource in this manner, the resource itself will be destroyed. And in 30 years, we have over-extracted groundwater to the extent that aquifers have completely run dry.
And make sure that groundwater is managed well because of the benefits that it is going to bring us for sustainable development. And indeed also the benefits that groundwater has for climate change resilience. So it's an absolutely critical resource and a critical issue for us to be looking at.
Groundwater development, especially in the context of Africa, has lagged behind because of failure to establish sound business case that is supported by scientific elements and evidences. I think the most critical aspect of groundwater development is establishing a solid business case for groundwater development using scientific evidence.
Groundwater provides almost half of all drinking water worldwide, about 40% of water for irrigated agriculture, and about a third of water supply required for industry. But the policy attention is a major gap. The invisibility of groundwater in the debates around, for instance, climate change, resiliency, and food security.
It's so important to build partnerships, therefore, around groundwater and around groundwater management to help us break out of this groundwater silo. And I think that has been such an important contribution of GRIP.
Look at GRIP as being a seed investment, as being very, very critical in establishing this baseline and a strong transformative foundation for groundwater development.
I think GRIP created a novel mechanism for sharing and tackling problems and solutions around the development of groundwater issues, with a focus on food, sustainability, and governance, including transboundary, which is of critical importance. Water does not recognize these man-made borders.
That very often the actors that are most heavily involved in water management are outside the so-called water sector, right? The so-called water box. They're farmers, and they're energy utilities, and they're conservation organizations. So building partnerships with those kinds of actors is so important.
We cannot solve the groundwater problem in a silo. We cannot solve the groundwater crisis from a hydrogeological perspective. I think those days are basically over. And now we need to talk about groundwater in a much broader context.
When it comes to water, the future is different from the past. But we've got some work to do to make sure people recognize that question needs to be asked and needs to be integrated into these research programs. So making sure that groundwater is part of the innovations that the CGIAR is going to be rolling out.
I think I tend to be a bit excited when I hear 2022, the UN year of groundwater, because for me, that is a do or die year for groundwater transformation. So my expectation in the year 2022 is a breakthrough in terms of groundwater development, a breakthrough, and the year in which African governments and African institutions will centralize groundwater.
You know, there'll be a greater openness to the kind of messages that we are trying to communicate. Let's utilize every opportunity. Let's try and very forcefully get these messages across. Let's get them across in a way which is more accessible, which is more user-friendly, to change the way they are currently over-extracting groundwater.
2022 as a stepping stone year, and groundwater being such a critical important of the sustainability agenda and water security for all, I think could really be a platform to help us leapfrog towards a more sustainable future, and making sure that groundwater is part of that solution agenda, perhaps even the solution broker.
Yeah, thank you. I think we need to move to the next presentation, which is from, thank you so much. I think the video is informative about the need and the need for groundwater and the enormous potential that groundwater is providing in terms of food security, in terms of sanitation and so on in different parts of the world, and how critical it is for the sustainable management. So the next presentation is from Thomas, which is a commemorative presentation in remembrance of Ram Klingenberg, who is of BGR that suddenly passed away recently. Thank you so much, Thomas. You have the floor.
Oh, hello to everybody. It's a sharp break now to come from groundwater, this excellent video production, to a very sad issue. I have the honor of the task to commemorate Ralph Klingbeil, who passed away suddenly in February this year. I have known Ralph more than 15 years now, nearly 20 years, when he entered BGR, and he had studied geophysics and geology at different universities, came then to BGR and started as a senior program officer and project coordinator at BMZ, so the International Institute for Exchange and Technical Cooperation. Yeah, thank you very much. Now it works. It takes a certain time, obviously. Yeah, thank you very much for the help and assistance. Yeah, and then after that, he changed to UNESCO and became very renowned for groundwater resources in the Near East. Yeah, he was really an expert, and he was traveling a lot and he had a lot of contacts to all these specialists and experts there. And we not only lost him as a person, but also as a brain. His memory of all the different things he was aware, it was so big and very fascinating. Later he came to MENA and was another in a short time. He became later the vice president of program and science coordination at IIH, International Association of Hydrogeologists, and returned then in 2016 as a senior expert to BGR again. And there he contributed very much extensively to our success in international cooperation because he was an excellent networker. And due to his knowledge, his contacts, and also his ability to address people directly and to speak to them and find a connection to different peoples always, it was very fruitful for us to have him on board. And I was really sad when I got the notice. I remember the day quite well when I heard he had passed away last night, and it was in February. And yeah, we have lost an expert, excellent networker, but also a friend, an excellent colleague. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Thomas. This is nice presentation in commemoration of Ralph. It is indeed a great loss to the groundwater community.
Yeah.
And then we pray for the repose of his soul. Thank you so much. So the next presentation will be a video presentation on the partnership towards unlocking the potential of groundwater for poor in sub-Saharan Africa. Keistell Upton, the British Geological Survey, will present this on behalf of UPGROW, which is a consortium of project that run for about 7 years, and they have done a lot of work in Africa in this. So on this note, please, let's start the next video to hear what UPGROW has done. Thank you.
Currently, hundreds of millions of people in Africa depend on groundwater for their basic needs. From 2013 to 2020, researchers, citizens, governments, the private sector, and NGOs from Africa and beyond came together in a UK-funded research program called UPGROW. UPGROW set out to unlock the potential of groundwater for the poor.
Informal urban settlements in Dodoma and Kampala, as many others in sub-Saharan Africa, are lacking adequate water and sanitation services. To help local communities resolve these challenges, we, T-Group partners, embarked on a 5-year project aimed at analysing local groundwater systems and introducing transition management.
We came to Dodoma basically to experiment with the transition management on how the locals can be able to use that approach to manage their groundwater.
Communities met many times to reflect and to collaborate on solving issues related to water, sanitation and waste management. The participants of the processes started to engage entire communities by organising regular cleanups and by sensitising residents to the sustainable use of water and groundwater, including sanitation and waste management.
I'm saying Aiko to T-Group.
Spanning across Ghana and Burkina Faso, the BRAVE project set out to identify, encourage and establish a series of vital partnerships needed around sustainable water management needed in the face of climate change, starting from local communities and reaching international agencies. To do this, we partnered with the Lorna Young Foundation, who specialise in Farmer Voice Radio.
Farmers Voice Radio is a participatory methodology that uses community radio to connect farmers in rural communities with each other and also to relevant national authorities such as Extension and Business Development Services. Expanding farmers' social networks in this way improves their access to relevant, timely and practical information about crop, weather and water management strategies. This information is vital in enabling smallholder farmers to adapt their practices in the face of climate change.
Once we are using the Farmer Voice Radio, once we play it on air, a lot of farmers are able to listen to it and also take decisions based on what we discuss on radio. Places that I might not be able to reach because of the Farmer Voice Radio program, they are able to listen to those things on air and they are able to adapt to some of the new things that we have to educate them to do.
Hi, my name is Suleiman Mwakuria. I'm currently working as a superintendent geologist for the Kwale County government in southern Kenya. I'm in charge of groundwater development, that is drilling of boreholes and supervision and groundwater exploration. At the moment, we have one project we are implementing at the county government here in Kwale, and that is a World Bank funded project which aims at developing a water supply master plan for Kwale towns. The APGO's work in Msambweni identified paleo channels. This work was led by hydrogeologist Mike Lane and Dan Olago. So the data which was obtained in this project has allowed us to site very high yielding boreholes which will be used to supply water in these towns.
On the Hidden Crisis project, we were trying to understand why across sub-Saharan Africa, at any one point in time, so many hand pumps that supply water to rural communities are not working, they're non-functional. And this project really underlined the importance of interdisciplinary working. Because if you look at the diagram on the right, you can see that at the bottom of the diagram, the physical functionality, the performance of the borehole, is also deeply related to the social dynamic, to the water management arrangement at the community level, and to broader systems of governance and supply chains. And so as a team, we worked together in the same communities, physical and social scientists, trying to understand all the interacting variables to do with climate and weather patterns, to do with hydrogeology, to do with boreholes, siting and construction, the pumps and parts, as well as the above ground social dynamics, community arrangements, in order to understand this challenge and the way in which it's made up of all these interacting variables which underpin questions of rural water supply and its sustainability across sub-Saharan Africa.
Hello everyone, my name is Tahir Kahil. I'm the group leader of the Water Security Research Group at IASA, the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis. It is a pleasure to be present in this session today at the Stockholm World Water Week. to talk about water, food, energy nexus and how to incorporate groundwater at integrated scales with application to the Zambezi Basin. The results of this research are the outcome of the ISWEL project, a partnership between the GEF, UNIDO and IASA. The Zambezi Basin is one of the largest river basins in Africa. It is a transboundary basin spanning over 8 countries. The Zambezi faces several nexus issues, including growing population and economy, many development challenges, and high climate variability. It also has high potential and interest in agriculture and hydropower development and valuable environmental ecosystems. In this project, we developed the scenario tool to look at the basin future and co-develop transformation pathway. The scenario tool combines external drivers obtained from global datasets with internal pathways co-developed with the major stakeholders in the basin. For the Zambezi Basin, 3 scenarios have been developed: a business as usual scenario, an economy-oriented scenario, and an environment-oriented scenario. For water resources, the 3 scenarios differ in terms of the level of use of the different water sources, the level of adoption of water technologies, and the level of protection of environmental flow. To model those scenarios, we have developed a Nexus modeling framework. It is a modular framework that combines well-established sectoral model for agriculture, hydrology, and economy. This slide shows the benefits of the future development in the basins. And as you can see, the basin, there is a considerable increase in agriculture and electricity production in the basin and related economic benefits. However, thus future development will involve negative environmental impact in the absence of environmental protection. In terms, for example, of river flow, reduction of river flow, increase of greenhouse gas emission, and nutrient loading to sea. So for the water use, it is projected to increase considerably by 2050 in the Zambezi Basin. Most increases are originating from irrigation and domestic water use. However, the available water resources in the Zambezi Basin could easily cover those increases. However, despite the abundance of overall water resources in the Zambezi Basin, local water scarcity could be expected in several sub-basins. Groundwater currently plays a limited role in the Zambezi Basin, mostly during the dry season to fulfill drinking water demand. Groundwater is projected to play an important role in the future in the economy and environment scenarios to support activity expansion, especially during the dry season, and to reallocate surface water to hydropower. By 2050, groundwater could become the major source of water in the environment scenario. Surface water will be mostly allocated to hydropower and environmental uses. So this last slide summarizes the main research findings of this study. First, future development in the Zambezi are expected to increase food and energy production and related benefits over the coming years. These developments are projected to considerably increase water use in the Zambezi, exacerbating local water stress problem in the most populated sub-basin of the middle and lower sections. Future development of hydropower and irrigation could create negative environmental impact in the absence of environmental protection policies. The sustainable development of the Zambezi was found not to compromise economic benefits. It could rather increase social and environmental benefits. Groundwater resources are expected to play an important role in the future to address increasing climate variability and also as a way to reallocate surface water from irrigation to hydropower and the environment. Different solution options could be implemented to smooth the economic impact of environmental protection, including improving efficiency, diversification of the renewable energy portfolio, virtual water trade, and enhanced use of groundwater. Thank you very much for your attention.
Well, good day, everyone, whatever time zone or country you're in. My name is Andrew Stone. I'm with the American Groundwater Trust. We're a non-profit organization that focuses almost entirely on groundwater issues. I'm going to give you my conclusion first. We're going to talk about changing climate importance. We're going to talk about the emergence of good science and technology for assessing and accessing groundwater. We're going to urge managers to adopt new technologies. We recognize the importance of accurate measurement, especially for recharge, discharge, and storage. We want policymakers to adopt innovations that will maximize resource potential, and water experts should be ambassadors for the science and the technology. We're all familiar with the basic problem, particularly with climate change, where we have drought, no rain, no storage, no irrigation. This puts pressure, of course, on our groundwater resources, not just the big turbine pumps for irrigation, but also pressure on the declining aquifers where small users are impacted. Here is an example of the types of measurements that are crucial in order to effectively manage water resources. Those arrows are vectors showing magnitude and direction. All of these measurements have to be made in order to accurately characterize our aquifer systems. One of the problems is lack of data. A 20 centimeter drilled well in 1 kilometer actually represents about 1/16 millionth of the area surveyed. And so with the elephant in the room problem, with the blind man, is it a fan, a spear, a snake, a tree, a wall, or a rope? If we don't have enough data, we could easily mischaracterize and underestimate or overestimate the potential of our aquifers. Measurement was something with which we're all familiar. There are many techniques, many technologies, and data collection, data storage, data transfer, real time, and in databases is becoming an increasingly important part of water resources management, particularly the integration of surface water, meteorological, and groundwater conditions. A quick way of doing measurements for aquifers and for geology is to use geophysics. And here you see images of airborne and ground methods. Here's an example of a rapid survey of a desert environment where geophysics can give good estimates of groundwater characterization down to 1,000 meters or more. And here's another example where in a single day, using electromagnetic induction, people were able to characterize good quality water and find preferential drilling zones very rapidly, very quickly, much better than the poke and hope method that we often used in the past. We have a variety of drilling machines available. They all have different capabilities, and the right machine must be used for the appropriate geology that there is. Not only must you use the right machine to drill the well, we must make sure it's equipped with the right kinds of materials for screens, casing, and you see here an example of the wrong choice of casing where mild steel was used instead of stainless in an acidic groundwater. Pumps we choose are also of importance, real importance, and engineers have to select the pumps very carefully based on engineering specifications and pump curves, whether it's going to be a line shaft turbine or a submersible turbine pump. There are accurate ways of selecting the right pump. It's not a one-size-fits-all way to choose. The big challenge is how do we make people aware? How do we educate the end users and policy? Education programs must be targeted specifically to the audience, and the method used must be appropriate for the purpose of the exercise. Here's an example of a program in Mexico where we worked to educate environmental staff and legislators about the critical importance of embracing modern technology to manage Mexico's water resources. We strongly believe in the importance of training teachers who can carry good science and management principles to the next generation of voters and decision makers. Right, my time is up, so I hope this has been useful for you. Thank you.
The issues of data goes a long way in making that we are planning well, because you can't plan if you don't know how much resources you have, how much facilities are there, in what state. So the data that is there is assisting so much in planning.
The activity itself was done on the ground, reaching out to each and every water point, either improved or unimproved, but it was all mapped, and then sanitation facilities were also mapped together so that we can see the difference, maybe the near proximity between the two.
The Climate Justice Fund project has so many subcomponents, and some of them include deliberate programs that were put in place to make sure that the University of Strathclyde, with the Scottish government support, was inviting technocrats from Malawi to travel to Scotland to learn issues of hydrogeology, so that by the end of the day we are having so many technocrats countrywide who are able to follow on the groundwater related activities. Now this program has deliberate also subcomponents which are directly linking to trying to make sure that we understand issues of salinity and also issues of fluoride, and coming up with maps for the country to show what we can expect to encounter.
We also have given some data, especially on functionality with the Malawi government portal, which is known as MassDAP, which you upload the data online so that people can check, because it is the focal point of government data online.
So as United Powers, it has benefited us a lot, especially through capacity building in our staff, such that we are able to employ the use of the water platform, which was one of the tools which was being used in the program in mapping water points. We also piloted to use the platform in assessing how some of the interventions which we are implementing are contributing towards SDG 6. So learnings from that initiative as well have helped us to also know how much we are contributing.
Any scientific review requires also evidence. So, as I said, during the consultative process revising of the national water policy, we have engaged the academia, we have engaged the NGOs, we have engaged many other relevant stakeholders for their input. Plus, we have been receiving students from University of Strathclyde in Glasgow, Scotland, who were coming here on masters and PhD programs, maybe doing their thesis. Now these have been publishing their articles and thesis maybe in scientific journals that have been read globally. But also we took upon ourselves as a country to consider some of the salient and outstanding articles.
With climate change, we have had droughts, and then there's groundwater depletion in the it's up on the ground surface, and we are kind of like now being forced to go into looking at deeper aquifers. It has also changed the amounts of water that we want, because with floods and then the droughts, we have to the people have to change a lot of things, maybe the type of food that they are now supposed to be having, or maybe the type of crops they are supposed to be growing.
But by the end of the day, we are trying to come up with the facilities and structures which are resilient to these shocks. But at the same time, make sure that we are making available water resources for the country without depleting the environment for the sake of future generations.
Hi, I'm Tom Gleason, and it's a pleasure to be part of this GRIP session. I'm going to talk today about how to strengthen groundwater curriculum for sustainability, anti-racism, equity, and diversity. And this has been in collaboration with Viviana Ray at University of Pisa in Italy, as well as Crystal Ning, just starting a collaboration on these topics from University of Minnesota. And I want to start by acknowledging that I live and work on the land of the Lekwungen-speaking people, on whose traditional territory my University of Victoria stands, and the Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wasanich people, on whose historic relationship with the land continues to this day. So my motivations for this strengthening of curriculum come from two perspectives. First, I'm interested in strengthening how we incorporate what's called EDI in Canada, equity, diversity, and inclusion, sometimes called JEDI in the United States or DEI in other places. First is the importance of EDI in professional practice, of working with diverse teams. Second, in Canada and in other settler colonial countries, is the phenomenon of environmental racism. So this photo here is emblematic of environmental racism in Canada. This is First Nations people playing road hockey on the place where they live, their reserve, which is right beside the largest chemical factories in Canada, causing significant pollution. These issues really came to bear for me in the last year during the Up Black Lives Matter demonstrations and the acknowledgement of systemic racism in our institutions and cultures, which really motivated me in this work. My second motivation around sustainability science is really the growing awareness of the climate emergency that we are in, that we are in the large climate demonstrations that happened just before the COVID crisis, and the ever-increasing volume and diversity and strength of the whole world of sustainability science. So I wanted to bring these two things into groundwater hydrology more explicitly. So some people find all these big problems very daunting, and I do too. So for me, I try to think about how I can apply them and work with them in my life. And the three things I've come up with are developing content around groundwater issues that elevate underrepresented groups, incorporating and integrating sustainability, anti-racism, and EDI explicitly across undergraduate programs like the one I'm part of, and incorporating environmental racism into hydrogeology classes. So the first initiative that I want to tell you about is about the first aspect, which is something I worked with and led with Viviana Ray from University of Pisa in Italy. And we call it the Water Underground Talks, where there are a series of 12 videos where researchers from around the world can introduce themselves through a short interview with Viviana or I, and then give a short research talk about the talks. They're all available for free on waterundergroundtalks.org. And you can use these videos in your class, your training. They're diverse presenters from around the world, highlighting their groundwater research and the researchers themselves. We also post instructor resources that you can use in any way. This is just a sample of questions that one of our presenters, Veena from India, gave. So questions to feed any conversations or discussions in class or during any presentations. For the second initiative, I'm part of a civil engineering program at University of Victoria, and we have a design spine where we have design projects in each class. I teach a fourth year class circled in red here on groundwater hydrology. And these projects, I wanted to better integrate this design spine with muscles and heart, as I'll explain, because the spine is just bones without the strong muscles to support it. So I'm developing a stronger sustainability muscles in our program, but these muscles don't function without blood. So I'm also trying to integrate a heart of EDI and anti-racism. So what that looks like is guiding students through threshold concepts and sustainability thinking, and exposing students to more sustainability frameworks, and consistently integrating EDI as professional practice in our curriculum, and developing an awareness of environmental racism in engineering. And then finally, we'll have this bloodstream of practice of EDI and anti-racism across our curriculum. And we'll be sharing these notes and developments from the fourth-year class, especially through HydroShare and other methods. So all these resources will be shared. So I want to thank you and encourage you to use these resources and be in touch if you're interested about any of these resources or initiatives. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So yeah, I think the time is fast going. We have 5 presentations from the video. And then one thing that I can say in the summary is that we have this, the Groundwater Solution Initiative for Policy and Practice, which is the GRIP. And these 5 presentations have showcased how practical solution and initiative can influence policy and practice in groundwater, in sustainable management of groundwater. And that cannot be anything better to showcase the success of GRIP as those 5 presentations have shown. On this note, I want to move a bit fast by now asking Daniel Olago to please quickly respond in just 1 to 1.5 minutes. What do you think you see as GRIP Global Partnership, the key role in moving forward the agenda towards more sustainable groundwater? How do you see this thing happening? And I want this question to be answered in very short sentence so that everybody among the panelists will be able to have their turn. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, thank you so much. I think one of the things is that we need to continue to inform and shape the global, national, as well as subnational water policies and planning, and also practice. And that's an area that probably needs a little bit, maybe more drive there. The other bit is that groundwater is coming under a lot of competing users. So we should be able to inform investment planning and priorities for the various users, including even business versus household water needs. And I would also want to say that given the intersectoral nature or cross-sectoral nature of water, it's extremely important to advocate for a systems and risk-based approach to management of the resource, but which also mainstreams issues of the poor, the vulnerable, and also gender aspects, because as we well know, women are considered to be the best, water managers, and in Africa, for example.
Thank you.
And they are the ones who work on that resource. Thank you.
You are right. Thank you so much. Can Saha, will you please respond to this again to see how did this partnership role help in moving agenda of groundwater forward? Saha. Shah, you are muted.
Sorry. Thank you, sir. I say, to me, the partnership is immensely important. I mean, between the political boundaries, it can be between the states in a large country like India, and it can be between the countries adjoining. You know, if you see the Indian subcontinent, the 2 largest aquifer systems are transboundary in nature. I mean, between India and Pakistan, and then India, Bangladesh, and Nepal. And in the northeastern area states also with Myanmar. So the partnership is absolutely important. But I will tell you that if you see in the context of Indian subcontinent, which is the largest groundwater extractor in the world, and the extraction of groundwater is to the tune of 250 km³ per year, here the groundwater practice is really a nightmare. In spite of all the policies that has been developed, the researches that has been carried out, translating those policies and research outputs to the ground. And my previous speakers has rightly told that the competing users, is so many pressure on groundwater and so much, I would say, the real challenge is the political economy of groundwater rather than the science and technology of groundwater in India today. So the sharing of data and the joining hands, exchanging the experience and learning from each other is absolutely important.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Astrid Hiller, from the global perspective, will you say that the partnership are really help to move the agenda forward?
Thank
Astrid,
you.
Yeah.
So quickly from the global perspective, and we have kind of a really nice complementary answers between the speakers. GRIP, to my mind, is an incredible, powerful platform. It builds on something we had started 5 years ago with a smaller group of partners, really working on the global scale on comparative advantages and using the reach of organizations involved. At that time, it was FAO, the World Bank, UNESCO, IAH, and the GEF. Now, GRIP is doing a step up with broadening that partnership with people working on the ground and working on the global scale. We need, and we absolutely have to use that next year to up the ante and move the needle on attention to groundwater. And the scale there is also, we also need to be better with our communication. And I think Carl Gander and this, our communications friend in Stockholm Water Week were quite clear. You have to scare them and you have to save them was the communicator's message. We have to look at the positive, the uses of groundwater and the role it has to irrigation, to urban development, to agriculture, to industries. And we have to say where the threats are, but we have to come with the solutions. If I have my last few seconds, because we need to move on, I think the task for GRIP that we cannot stop until we get there for next year and beyond is really to make sure we don't only have the water partners. We, in the moment, are still very much working with our colleagues, friends, and peers, but we are not yet have made the hump to really have the agricultural producers or ministries here in the room or in our partnerships. So we need to do that. Where is energy? Where is urban development? So that is a big task. We have to be in the Kunming biodiversity meetings. We have to be in the climate meetings, but we also have to be across in the agricultural ministers meetings. So this is going to be our task for next year. And I think that will be another, and we can in our organizations already leverage a lot. We have that ability. Thank you.
Thank you. I think with that, your comment, you have already even tried to answer the second question that I will have asked, to ask you about how do we accelerate or leapfrog this capacity building in helping this sustainable development. Can you answer that one in 1 minute so that I let you go?
Okay, you can let me go. Yeah, that partly is, if you look in our organizations, if it is, the IMIs, the BGRs, the GFs, the World Banks, the FAOs, we do have a reach across sectors, first of all, to reach out and have that conversation with other sectors. Second of all, we have excellent partners with a lot of technical knowledge to leapfrog access to information, to build capacities, to have exchanges north-south and south-south, where there's experience on governance, on technology, and on management issues. Look at Africa, you have the OSS, you have the GMI, SADC GMI. So leveraging those experiences and leapfrogging to not really have to learn and learn from failures, be open. We cannot always find the nice pictures of projects we have done. We have to look actually at things and why they haven't worked. So this is my half minute.
So thank you. Jane, now to you. First of all, I will ask you, the global partnership that we are talking about from GRIP, how do you see it moving the agenda of groundwater, sustainable groundwater forward? The first question. And the second question I want to also address, how do we now use the capacity development to leapfrog this development agenda in terms of sustainable groundwater development? Jane, you have the floor.
Thank you. I think the GRIP partnership is a unique way of developing local solutions to address global drivers, as shown by the projects showcased in this presentation. But one major contribution I'd like to see in the future is a really clear understanding of recharge, the rate of replenishment, sustainable yield of groundwater with the impacts of climate change. And although there's a lot of justified concern about over-abstraction, there's also, going back to David Burden in the 1970s, an underground water that's almost always full is as badly utilised as one which is almost empty. So we need to manage the groundwater, but not shy away from groundwater use for resilience and for particularly small-scale rural communities. To move forward, one of the biggest things I would like to see is global data sharing, good quality data, shared without barriers, not water data being widely available and not treated as top secret. And that way we can all make more informed decisions and influence the policymakers.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. On the last note, I will indulge that Daniel, just 1 minute. What do you think from the African perspective, way forward in terms of capacity development? Have a second, please. Have a minute, please.
Right, okay. So number one, adaptive management needs to be enhanced, and it has to inbuild redundancies, because the same area which experiences drought experiences floods, and these stress the systems. But we need to have participatory scenarios also incorporated. The second is that we need to take advantage of the advances in artificial intelligence and incorporate technology into the management of our groundwater systems, and that needs capacity building. And lastly, we need STEAM-oriented capacities, including the arts and not only STEM. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, okay, I'm going to digress a bit by asking Kirsty Upton, with the upgrow, with the success story we have about upgrow, can you tell us what is the next level we are going? And how are we going to leapfrog this groundwater sustainable development? Kirsty?
Thanks, Moshid.
Have a minute.
A minute. So, I mean, I think it in many ways does come down to the partnerships that are forged in the Upgrow program and in these other programs. And I think what was unique about Upgrow, or what was particularly nice about Upgrow, was the emphasis on linking up the academic community with the policymakers, with the NGOs, and really trying to bring them together into one program, working together towards the same goal. And I think those partnerships will hopefully outlast the program. Upgrow has finished now, and I think it's those partnerships that will allow us to move forward.
Thank you, thank you. Now, lastly, this is the last question from me. Robert Carlin, please, can you, about the climate justice, from the aspects perspective based on your studies in Southern Africa, what do you see the future in terms of the climate change and the impact of groundwater and what needs to be done? Have a second, please, Carlin. Robert.
Okay.
Please.
Well, climate justice is one of the most difficult areas to actually understand. And I think knowledge sharing and working in partnership is the best way to make sure that we allow those who are on the ground, from the local, from the district, to the national levels and the transboundary levels, to be able to actually work together to solve these types of issues.
Thank you, thank you. With this, I want to hand over to Karen to please give a closing remark, because we are almost run out of the time. For our participants, your questions online will be answered. The discussion continue. Karen?
Thank you very much, Mashoud, and thank you to everyone who's been part of the session and also for our attendees. It's been a great short overview of what GRIP has been doing over the last 5 years. And I think we have not been able to give justice to all that has been, done and achieved in our partnership. But I also think with the session, we have seen that there is a good scope for these kind of partnerships going forward, and we need to further build on them. And I think with what we have seen at the Stockholm Water Week this week, there's been some kind of mainstreaming of groundwater, and I think that's a really nice progress. And we have to build on that as we go into next year, the UN Year of Groundwater. And so I think the stage is sort of set for that, and I think we have done really well with this session. And so I would like to just thank everyone again for your partnership, and looking forward to continue as we go forward towards the next 5 years. Thanks to everyone. Thanks, Mashoud.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. My name is Tijani Mashoud, Groundwater Desk Officer in AMCO. Thank you for your time. Thank you for participating, and thank everybody. Have a nice evening. Have a nice afternoon, depending on where you are from.